Okay, 9:45. Let's get started. Okay, so we're in week two. We're still on positive direct messages. This is part two of that. Last week we did sort of the positive stuff. Now this is the not so positive stuff, claims and adjustments and goodwill. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to go over the reading. We're going to look at all the module pages. In your assignments, you're going to create a direct claim letter. You're going to analyze two adjustment letters. We're going to review verbs this time for the grammar part. There's an assignment where you have to talk like Yoda. There's the normal discussion and the module quiz. So before I get started on this week's, I usually like to go over some feedback from last week that I've been seeing in the grading. So a couple of questions about the collective noun. Maybe we'll go back there. So yeah, we went over nouns if you recall. And one of the things about nouns is they can be classified into different types. And in the common classification, we have this collective, which means the noun is singular, but it's acting as a collection for a group of things, right? Like the faculty, the staff, the herd. And in the homework, there was a section where you had to decide if something was collective or plural, and this can be tricky sometimes. So a couple of things you can use to figure it out. One of the things, if it's a collective, you can say of after it, and then the other noun, which is what it's containing, right? Like the collective noun bouquet, you could say bouquet of flowers, or team of players, crew of crewmates, I guess, right? So that's one trick you can do to say, so for something like the plural mice, that doesn't work. Mice of doesn't mean anything. Feet of doesn't mean anything, right? So that's one trick you can use. The other thing to kind of realize is that you can make a collective noun into a plural. We can have teams, which would mean, multiple groups of players, each in their own team. So we can pluralize team to get teams. We can pluralize crew to get crews. But if it's already a plural, we can't make it another plural. We can't be feetses or mices, right? So that's the other trick you can do to try to figure it out. All right. There was some question on direct. There's always questions on the direct strategy versus the indirect message strategy. All I can say is go back over the slides. There's some pictures in there. We're going to be doing this every single time, so I think you'll get a review on that. Okay, the other thing that we mentioned in here about nouns, last thing I'll talk about is that we mentioned that English is an SVO language, subject, verb, object, right? And that, where does it say this? Every correct sentence has to have a subject noun. Where do I say that? Do I say that? I don't think I say that anymore. Well, it's true. Every correct sentence has a subject noun. But then we learned about these moods, right? We learned about the imperative mood, right? When we were talking about making your list of instruction rewrites. So if I said an imperative like take cover, where's the subject now? If I say play nice, those are imperatives. Where's the subject now? So it's a little bit tricky. Imperative always has an implied subject noun, which is you, right? So if we say, you take cover, you play nice. With the imperatives moods, we can just, not just, we kind of have to leave off that. It's implied. And you might be thinking, what the heck? Why do they make this crazy rule? Well, I'm not sure, but it seems like, you know, if we were in like World War I and we're fighting and we're in our foxholes and we have like the American foxhole over here, and we have like the British foxhole over there. And over in the British foxhole, they're saying like, oh, excuse me, old man, but there's a grenade coming your way. You might want to take cover. You know, they'd probably all be dead, right? And over in the American foxhole, it's like, take cover. So removing the literal subject noun and having it be implied you just makes that imperative so much more powerful and short. I mean, there's nothing else you could take away from it, right? So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. That's the only feedback I had from last week. So let's just go on to this module. Reading review. Okay, like I said, this is part 2 of the positive neutral messages, but this one we're going to talk about claims and complaints. So what's a claim? What's a complaint? Last week it was all kind of you know, unicorns and rainbows. Everything was totally positive. We're still saying this is positive, but this is, you know, when things don't go so well, right? So a claim, it's kind of like a complaint. I think of claim as more like a lawyer thing, like I'm going to give you a copyright claim or cease and desist claim. So in a claim, you're looking for compensation for something that was wrong. Your delivery trucks are parking in our driveways. I would like you to pay for that, right? That's a claim. Whereas a complaint, we'll get to that, but I think you know what a complaint is, right? So when you compose these direct claims, we still have our, you know, opening, body, and closing. And we're still using the direct message strategy here, right? The very first thing here, the opening, describe desired action clearly. We're just coming right out and saying, this is what we want. The body is the explanation, and the closing is the goodwill statement and action request. Similar to what we did last week, open your claim with a compliment, point of agreement, statement of the problem, brief review of actions you've already taken to resolve this problem. You might expect, you know, a replacement, refund, new product, whatever it is. If it's obvious, just say it. I would like you to credit my account. I would like a replacement. If it's less obvious, you might be asking for, say, a change in policy. You know, I don't think it's fair that you exclude people with dogs from your restaurant or whatever it is, like that. So in the body is where you do your supporting. Explain the problem, justify any details that you have, if you have receipts, whatever emails that you've already sent. But becoming angry and trying to blame people is not really productive. Just state the facts logically, objectively, and unemotionally. And if you have copies of those records that you're referring to in the body, attach them. And if this is about some service that you've encountered, then if you have the names of the individuals you spoke to and the dates, that's good to include. If there's like a plan B remedy that is possible, you can spell it out. And then in your conclusion, usually you want to conclude with some action request. I'd like you to do this, do that, do the other thing, right? But again, you don't have to be mean. It's still be courteous. Close with a courteous statement. You want to make these claims as prompt as possible. If the longer you wait, and sometimes there's like statutes of limitations that run out. People forget. If this was some service thing and you had an encounter with a person, after a couple of weeks, they're going to forget, even a week. And you might think, I'm just going to call them, or I'm just going to go on social media and go on their thing and, do a Yelp or something. But by taking the time to put your claim in writing, elevates your claim to a more serious message. Always save a copy of your messages. It's probably on your computer anyway. Okay, so that's drafting it, about completing and revising. Usually you're angry in the moment when you write. So when you do your draft, it's probably going to be angrier than it ought to be. So on the rewrite, try to temper down the tone. Coupled with that is, if you were angry, you might not have been so objective. So try to pull back on the emotion and put in more objectivity. If you come up after you wrote the thing, oh, I remember, yeah, there was this, item, and I did that. I called that person back. Add those, and then try to, in your call to action, in your closing, try to be very specific about exactly what you want done. Okay, just a little bit about, going on the social media and posting your complaints. I don't know how useful these are, to be honest with you. I mean, in my personal experience, I go on Home Depot or something and I look at the reviews, and it's like people don't do a review unless they had an issue for the most part. So they're very lopsided. And then you'll read one review, it'll say, this is the greatest thing ever. And the very next review will say, this is the worst thing ever. Don't know what to make out of that. This one is very important. This is sort of like we talked about last semester, everything on the internet's forever. So if you make a crazy, angry, out there post, that's going to be around forever. People are going to see that. And is that really what you want people to think of you? And yeah, even if it's anonymous, we know people can work around that, figure out. Okay, kind of flipping it around to the business side, accepting this. Public criticism can really affect your bottom line. There's a stat in here, I think we'll get to it in a second, about like one bad review can cost you so much percent of your business, 2, so much more, 3 is like, forget it, you're pretty much cooked at that point. This is 36% of US consumers always read user reviews when researching a product, and 82 will check out reviews of local businesses. So people are looking at this stuff. So you might want to take another kind of view of your action here when you're making a claim or complaint, and that maybe you're doing this just as sort of a public service to help other people who might be looking for a restaurant that day or something like that. So for when you're writing online reviews and complaints, these are some things to think about. Establish your credibility. Consider that it's going to be forever. Make sure you're obeying whatever rules they have for posting on their comment site. If they come back and offer help, you want to follow through with that. I mean, what's the point if you just complain and then they come back and say, oh, we'd like to make it right, and you ignore it? If I look at your Yelp, for example, if I look at your Yelp history, I see your review, I go, oh, let me look at that person, and I see all of your reviews are negative. What's that going to make me think? It's like, I'm not going to listen to this person. So if you're doing these reviews, try to balance them with pluses and minuses. And yeah, you don't want to be a paid shill for anything, right? Okay, so then the next kind of message is the adjustment message. So just like we did last time, there was the request and the reply, the direct request and the direct reply. Here, we have the same thing. you get a claim, your business, you get a claim or complaint coming in, and then what you send back is called the adjustment. So it's a written reply to a customer claim. You want to rectify the situation, regain their confidence, and promote future business. You want to make favorable adjustments to legitimate claims because, there could be lawsuits involved. And most of the time, the company genuinely wants to satisfy the customers and retain that business. So when you're writing your adjustment message, you keep these three things in mind. You're trying to fix their problem, right? Everybody writes from their point of view, the you view, what's in it for me. And, just explaining like, oh, we were busy that night and blah, blah, blah. That's not helping them. What's in it for them? You're not giving them anything. So you want to rectify their problem. You want to fix their problem. You want to regain their confidence, and you want to have them come back and use your business again. So here's sort of a writing plan for a positive adjustment message. On the subject line, so this is critical for both emails and written letters. When you're writing a formal business letter for, say, your claim or complaint, you don't necessarily need a subject part of it. Even the subject line in the email could be somewhat generic. But when you're replying to them, you need to establish the context. I'm replying to you about whatever you were talking to me about. So it's pretty critical that you have a subject line in the email that says, this is regarding blah, 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 or even in your formal written letter, you want to have a beginning line that this is in regards to, so we have some context established. And then in the opening, you want to, again, this is the direct message strategy. So you want to come right out and say, we're going to fix your problem. We're going to do this. And then in the body, you can provide the details about how you're going to go about that. If you want to apologize, you can do that. But as we mentioned last time, can be a slippery slope. If you apologize in certain general ways, that could invite litigation. So yeah, if you want to apologize, that's fine, but don't admit negligence in your apology. Like, we're sorry this happened. That's all you really have to say. And in the closing,
it's not sorry that you feel that way, because if you're saying sorry this happened, it's already admitting.
That's a good point. There's that whole train of thought of, I forgot what it's called, just left my mind, where you model the other person's behavior when you're talking to them, right?
Shadow.
Yeah, and there's a whole list of things that you do, and one of them is acknowledge their feeling, right? I'm sorry you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's generally good, but if you're sort of too obvious with it, or if you overuse it, it sounds insincere, right? It's like you're not really acknowledging that the thing happened. You're not really acknowledging that there was a problem. You're just saying, I'm sorry you feel there was a problem.
But that sounds more like you're not admitting, but you're saying
exactly, right? So like we said, direct message strategy, put the good news right up front. Temper your anger. And maybe this ties into what we just talked about. Avoid half-hearted or reluctant responses. I'm sorry you feel that the service was bad. And then in the body, you explain how you're going to comply with this request, if there's more details. And then, statements to try to regain the customer's trust. Explain whatever changes you're going to make, how you're going to improve the product, whatever it is you're doing. Try not to emphasize negative words. Keep everything positive and upbeat. Yeah, so here's more about the apology. So, of course, you talk to your attorney about anything, they're going to say, don't do it. Right? That's been my experience. Can I do this? No, because there's a 3% chance you might have a lawsuit. It's like, but they generally discourage apologies, fearing that you're admitting guilt. Now, there are some apology laws that allow you to express regret without fear of reprisal, right? And then some businesses say they don't even go down the apology road because it just brings it back up, right? Brings up the bad memories that this customer has. But if it seems a natural thing to do in this particular case, you want to do it early in the body and make it brief. You don't need to languish on it. Yeah, so using sensitive language. You gotta remember they're already probably not happy, and so you don't want to fuel that fire. Avoid negative words and phrases. Don't blame them, even if it is their fault. It's that old saying, the customer is always right, even when they're not. Turning it around, don't put blame on yourself, your business, individuals, all right. I think that was in one of the examples in last homework. RIT, maybe it's this homework. RIT department is bad and they failed. It's like, they don't care about that. They just want you to fix your problem. And then don't make unrealistic promises. We're so sorry you had bad service. We promise this will never happen again. Really? Can you say that? And in the closing, you want to express confidence that the problem's been solved and that everything's back to normal. They'll come back. You might take this opportunity in your closing to mention the product in the favorable light. We've had 5,000 positive reviews. You could recommend a new product. I'm sorry, that product wasn't appropriate for you, but we have this professional grade drill that will work, whatever it is, right? Express appreciation for their business, anticipate future business, and refer to the desire to be of service to satisfy customers. Okay, so that's the first two. And similar, in last week, we also had the instructional message as the third one. Here we have goodwill messages. These express thanks, recognition, sympathy, and we have these 5 S's. Remember this 5. Selfless. You want to focus the message solely on the receiver, not you, right? You're expressing thanks or something. It's not about you, it's about them. Be specific. Mention the specific incidents or characteristics that you're talking about. Be sincere. Be spontaneous. And make it short. These goodwill messages, they're just simple thank yous, really. So what would you use this? Some people write thank you letters for everything. I have a neighbor that sends me a thank you note for the smallest little things. That's nice, whatever. Thanking customers for their orders, hosts for the hospitality, individuals for any kindness performed sort of out of the realm of normal, employees for a job well done, customers who complain even. So this is the structure of the goodwill message. If you're expressing thanks for a gift, you might sort of explain what the gift means to you sincerely. If you're sending thanks for a favor, you could highlight the importance of that favor, what that favor was to you. If you're saying thank you for hospitality, you might go into details about that hospitality. If you're writing to recognize employees for their contributions, you want to make them feel special, right? So it's not some generic, all of our employees are great or whatever. You're writing a specific thanks for a specific employee. If someone sends you a goodwill message, you can reply to it. Sometimes these keep going around forever. Again, keep it short and simple. Use simple words. If it's sympathy or condolences, you can go out and buy a sympathy card. That's fine, but personal message is much more meaningful. If you're referring to a death or misfortune, using words that show that you understand that this is hard for them. If it's a death, you should praise the deceased person in a personal way, that what they meant to you. Offer assistance without going into excessive details. Anything I can do to help, let me know, that kind of thing. And end on a reassuring forward-looking note. Handwritten letters seem more personal than typed messages. If you're writing a condolence message. Be tactful in your loss, in mentioning loss. We already kind of went over this. Recognize good qualities of the deceased. Assure the receiver of concern, offer assistance. Okay. Should you use email for a goodwill message? Well, if it's someone that's your primary means of communicating them with is email, then it's probably okay. If you're sure it's just not going to get lost in the inbox. You can use it as sort of a heads up to a follow-on phone call or handwritten message. But generally, email messages are great for lots of things, but they're quickly read, quickly discarded, and not remembered. But how many of you have handwritten notes that people have sent you that you've saved on your bulletin board for years? Okay.
It's always in that drawer.
Okay, so let's go.
Professor, I have a question
Uh-huh.
before we move forward.
Yep.
Because the news of the claims, like because we're trying to answer a claim,
Mhm.
I just wanted to confirm that it's okay. I guess you're saying the direct form. I'm kind of confused how last time, if it was something negative, we needed to use like persuasion. So I was
Exactly.
just, wanted to.
Exactly. We're going to go over that in just a second. Yeah, it sort of seems backwards here. We're still talking about direct claims and adjustments here, but it's about bad things that happen. Yeah, so we'll get into that in a second, but you can choose to switch to the indirect strategy if you think this is kind of touchy. But overall, why we still consider this direct message strategy positive messages is that this is kind of what we're leading into right here with this slide, is that sure, things don't always go smoothly, but we're not like we do in the first phase of the 3x3 process. We're analyzing our audience. We're not assuming they're going to be hostile in this case. Next week, we're going to start talking about bad news messages. That's when it's completely flipped, like they are hostile. And we're going to talk about, obviously, the indirect strategy there and other techniques to mitigate that. But here we're still in the realm of the person made a complaint, but they probably want to keep doing business with you. They just like, I got the wrong order or something. They're not going to never do business with you again. So you're kind of your expectation is that we're still sitting in the positive world. We're not in the negative world yet.
Okay, thank you.
Make sense? Okay, so here it's like, yeah, things don't always go well. You're going to have problems. They could be disappointed for a number of reasons. And you're going to get these messages at some point or the other. And one way to sort of be glass half full about it is take this as feedback to help your organization improve. So yeah, claim versus complaint. I mean, is it that important that we recognize the difference here? Because we treat them the same when we write. But a claim, like I said, is more of a lawyerish thing. It explains something went wrong and I want compensation. Whereas the complaint is just, yeah, something went wrong and I want you to fix it. Right? I'm not looking for you to cease and desist. I'm not looking for you to pay a royalty on music that you're using. That would be a claim. Complaint would just be, it's broken, it didn't get here, it's lost in shipments, things like that. If it's a minor, it's best to do that in person on the phone or face to face, or even by email, so that you can just resolve it as quick as possible. But if it's more serious, then you might even consider a formal snail mail, because then you have a paper trail if anything really bad happens. So Yanni, yeah, right here, a claim or complaint sounds like a negative. Why do we consider these positive or neutral messages? So what I just said, our expectation in this particular case, these particular cases, is that we're expecting the receiver to agree with our claim. So we're making a claim and complaint like, I never received it. Well, it's difficult for the company to say, yeah, you did. It's like, I didn't receive it. Look at the shipping email. There's no picture or whatever. I never got it. Right? So we're expecting that if we're making the claim or complaint, that it's going to be taken positively. And no matter what it is, what went wrong, or what company it is, all companies are rightly afraid of losing business to a negative review. This was the numbers I was talking about earlier. According to one study, even one negative review can cost the business 22% of customers, 59%. So it only takes 3 strikes and you're out, kind of a thing here. So the companies take this stuff seriously, and they don't want you to write a negative review. I think we already kind of went over this in the reading review, but just to kind of hammer it in. Direct claims, follow these guidelines, describe the action clearly. So again, direct message strategy. Explain the claim, tell why it's justified, provide details, and pleasantly with goodwill statement. If you have an action request, by such and such a date, if appropriate. Open your claim with a compliment, a point of agreement. Try to start off on the positive foot. Then state the problem. Any actions that you've already taken, any people you've already talked to, you want to give a brief review of this is what I've done up to this point to try to resolve this problem. Because typically, you're not even going to get to this point if you were able just to send an email or pick up the phone and say, it's broken, I need a replacement, and they go, okay, you sent your replacement. This is probably a few things happen for you to get to this point. If it's an obvious thing, like the things I just kind of mentioned, you don't even need to really mention that. It's like you overcharged me, fix the bill, or whatever. But if it's not that obvious, you might want to spell out exactly what you're looking for in terms of remedy. In the body, any justification, details. Again, when you review your rewrite your draft, tone down the anger, get rid of any blame. Just state the facts logically, objectively, and unemotionally. Include any copies of any pertinent documents. And if there's, like I said, if there's a plan B, spell it out. Concluding the action request and the claim with a courteous statement that promotes goodwill, summarizes your action request. So again, you're trying to, you want to still do business with this company. You're just like, I want you to fix this problem. Do it promptly. The longer you wait, the more that employee may not be there anymore by the time you make this thing. So do it as soon as you can. And by putting it in writing, you're showing them you're serious. Always save copies. So no matter what prompted the thing, close politely worded action requests. Don't have any nasty parting shots. Don't be passive aggressive. All those things, they're going to work against you. They're going to lower your chances of getting what you're asking for. It's the old adage, catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right? You might even get a little extra if you're positive. The company's going to be sort of in damage control mode, and they want you to feel compelled to tell your friends, hey, they fixed my problem. Like, I took this back to Costco and they just took it back, no questions asked. So when you're revising, again, this was a chance to go back and temper the tone because you were probably angry. Make sure you're being objective, provide any facts and figures that you have, and make sure you're specifying exactly what you want done. We already kind of went over this. Social media complaints, they're forever. Be careful. Oh, yeah, here's something. If you go online, say, and complain, and you're giving a crazy rant and you say things that are out of line, you can get sued. Business can sue you.
For saying negative comments.
Well, not so much for saying negative comments, but for impugning your business, right? Saying things that are false. Okay. So the first assignment here is the direct claim letter. So this is in section 6.3 of the textbook that we just went over. You should probably read that.
Okay.
So we're going to analyze this scenario, and then we're going to use Word to compose a claim letter from scratch. So here's the scenario. You work for this company, Low Property Management. That company specializes in commercial real estate. Yesterday, one of your business tenants in Tony, you know what Tony means, fancy East End neighborhood, complained about problems with an iron gate that you had installed by another company that did the actual manufacturing, installed it just 6 months ago on August 13th. Apparently, the two wings of the gate have settled and they don't match. Gate gets stuck, it takes more force to open, close, lock the gate. It was painted and some of the spots are already rusting. This tenant that this gate was installed on is a shop owner, complained about she's struggling to get the gate closed twice a day. So you realize that you have to contact the installer that installed this thing and request the company inspect the gate and fix it. Only 6 months have passed, and you recall the warranty was for 1 year. You have a formal record of that. But here's the kicker, they don't use email. I guess they're crusty old school iron workers. So you have to write a claim letter. So your task is to write your letter to this guy Irvin at the iron foundry with his address there. And to jog his memory, you're going to enclose a copy of your company's proposal and invoice. For this exercise, just list them as attachments, right? And I give you this their address. So what are you going to do? So you're going to use the business letter template, right? The Word file that I have for you here. And if you haven't used Word yet, because I don't think we had to use Word yet, right? The other assignments from last week were all text box ones.
Mhm.
So if you've never used Word before, there's just a simple tutorial here. Now, this class is not about how to use Word exactly. We have another class for that goes into all the details of Word, which is insane.
Yeah, it is.
It is. But all those things are good to know, and I think you ought to take that class,
Again,
especially if you're writing, larger documents with indexes and cross-references and all that kind of fancy stuff. But for this class, we just open blank document, no fancy, templates for formatting or anything like that. And if you just use, the business letter template that I have there, your margins and everything, and the point size and the font selection has already been done. So this class is about writing. Yeah, we're going to use Word, but we don't go crazy with all the Word features. And if you haven't ever submitted a file instead of just the text box thing, when you get to the submit thing, there's a picture of a rocket ship. I'm not really sure why it's a rocket ship. But you can either, two choices. You can either drag your file from your folder browser on Windows or the
upload
Mac
it.
one, just drag it and drop it over there and it will upload it for you. Or in that rocket thing, there's a thing that says select files. You can click that and it will open a file browser for you. Or you can hunt down where it is. As always, if you need help, get me through the inbox, go on Zoom. So I'll leave that one for you to do at your leisure. Okay, and then the other one. Yep.
Sorry, Professor Dwayne. So you said for the attachment part, I hope I don't forget. It says we just write attachment and close or something.
Yeah, if you remember the 6 parts of the business letter from last week, there's the 7th bonus thing, which was the attachments thing at the bottom. You can go back and look at that if you want. There's a picture right there. You can do it right now.
Okay. Okay.
Let's just do it right now.
There was a bonus.
It was a bonus. Yeah. I think I missed that.
7th thing, yeah. Let's see, where is the business letter? And somewhere here I got a picture. Here we go. So here's the picture of all the 6 parts, and then bonus enclosures, colon, and then, if it's files in an email, you can get the actual file names here. Even though if you do that, if you give file names, it's still nice to have a like English explanation of what that file is, right? Because sometimes it's the file name by itself. Like, I still don't know what this is. If it's a formal snail mail letter, then just, you know, what those other pieces of paper are.
Oh, okay, thank you. So it's like a hyperlink.
Okay.
We're gonna do the letter on this one, like business letter template.
Yes. Yeah, you can download that by clicking the little arrow next to it.
Mhm.
I mean, that's something you should just have. If you have your own computer, you should just be on your computer all the time, because we're gonna use that over and over and over again. Okay, so we were talking about the going back. So that one, the claim or complaint was coming in, say we're the business, it's coming into the business, this is going out of the business, right? We reply. Still positive for the most part. So we're running the adjustment as a reply to some customer's claim or complaint. We're trying to rectify the wrong, regain their confidence, and promote future business. You want to do this as a business for two reasons. I think we mentioned this already before. You could get sued if you don't solve their problem in some cases. And most of the time, you genuinely want to satisfy your customers, so they'll come back. You got three goals: rectifying the wrong if it exists, regaining their confidence, and promoting further business. So this is critical, again, where you want to establish the context. I'm replying to you about your claim or complaint letter of this date, whatever. So there's a context, like, what was this reply about? It's possible there was two problems from the same customer. Make sure you're replying about the problem that they think you're replying about. Direct message strategy: grant the request, announce the adjustment immediately. Provide details in the body, apologize if appropriate, but don't admit negligence again. And then end positively with forward-looking thought. How many times have I said this? Use the direct message strategy. Present good news immediately. Don't express anger, and don't be half-hearted or reluctant with responses. In the body, you're going to explain how you're complying with this claim or complaint. We've already gone over this. We've already gone over this. We didn't talk about the apology laws in detail. So some states have these apology laws that allow you to express regret without fear that it can be used as a liability in a court case. But even so, maybe avoid the apology. I mean, it doesn't really help them. It's not an action item that's doing them any real good, and it might just kind of drudge up their negative experience again. So here's some tips on using upbeat language. So try not to use negative words or phrases. Don't blame the customer, even if it's their fault. Don't blame individuals in your own organization. Don't make promises you can't keep. I think we went over this all already, right? Okay, and then goodwill messages. Some more points on that. There's those S's, right? Selfless, specific, sincere, spontaneous, and short. Typically used for thanking customers for orders. We already went through this. We already went through this. This is all in the reading review. All in the reading review.
We did.
Yeah, we did all this. Okay.
Yeah.
It got doubled on there.
What's that?
It got doubled on there. Is that what happened?
Well, I never know. So I go over the reading, which is like, okay, you were supposed to read this. And then I usually pick out a few things like, okay, I really want to explain this again, right? And it's hard for me to know, like, what are people going to not understand? So I kind of go overkill. It's better to have stuff I can skip over and then come back to if someone has a question than not have anything if someone has a question. Okay, so here's your adjustment letter assignment. So we have this example customer adjustment letter. I'm going to download this little button. We can look at it here just for a second. So already you can see it's doing some of the no-nos that we said, right? They're blaming, whatever. So you're going to list, we have this message and this message. So you're going to look at the two messages and list the differences between the two. Pick one as, yeah, that's the good one. This is the bad one, right? And then summarize the information like we did. Where's the opening? Where's the closing? Do that in Word. Okay, so too far. Download the thing, open it in Word, save as with your name stuck on the end of the document name. This is something we usually do when we do these file submits, so that for me, I can keep better track of whose is whose. And then just like it said in there, list 4 differences between the two messages, identify the one you think is well written and explain why, and then summarize the parts, the opening, body, closing of the well written one. And then you drag it and drop it on the rocket ship, just like you did for the other one. All right, it's 10:30. So let me do the 10-minute bio break.
We're good, right?
We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
For where should we, are we supposed to be using track changes still for?
No, only if it explicitly says in the assignment, use track changes.
Okay, so where should we write those?
Just write in the document. Just write it right in the document itself. You can just say part 1. These are the 4 similarity or 4 differences, right? Just write in the document.
Like at the bottom or something? Or-
That's fine. Yeah, at the top, whatever you want to do. I think you did this on the last week where you said part 1 and you did that, and then part 2, it was right in the document.
Okay.
Yeah, the only thing you're submitting is the document. We were using track changes quite a bit, and I got some feedback from people that it was really distracting to them, all that red stuff going by. And
Yeah,
so I thought we'd try to use it a little bit less this semester.
for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you need the full certificate? I mean, I'm just taking it for just to, sharpen my skills for
Sure.
business.
Yeah, I mean, if you're ever over here at the Aptos campus, it might be nice just to stop in at the CTC and talk to Jen. She can show you some flyers and all the info about it. But is anything required? Nothing's required. But if you're in a interview for a job, if you can show them your certificates that you earned at Cabrillo for these particular CABT technologies that you learned, hey, that's a total plus for you. If you can show them you have an associate's degree and from CABT, then they know that you know how to use Word, you know how to use Excel, PowerPoint, you know how to use Windows. They already they can just cross all those things off the list. So I can't say it's required, but definitely be in your favor. And then we have
Oh yeah, no, I was just asking like, is it good for like an internship job? Like, you can get like a lot of jobs, but do you need the certificate in order to get a job, or can you just with like some of these classes like this one and some of the other ones like the Word and the spreadsheets?
So it's a matter of degree. If you're in a job interview and they're interviewing 5 other people, if you have a certificate and the other 5 don't, you're probably going to get the job and they won't, right? So it's like that, either associate's degree or the certificates. But even if you don't go through the whole CABT program and get any of the certificates, you can just list on your resume. By the way, we're going to write resumes in this class.
Okay.
I've taken these classes, I've taken the writing for business and technical writing class, any of that stuff. And again, you're going to be ahead of the other 5 people that have been interviewed.
Yeah.
Anybody else
Yeah.
on Zoom wants to chime in here with what you think, but that's what I think.
No, thanks. Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I've hired zillions of people, and what you're looking for is someone who can just start right now. And obviously, you're gonna have to train them on the specifics of your particular problem domain, but for the common stuff, like, do you know how to use a Windows computer? Do you know how to use Word and Excel? If you can just on day one go, yeah, no problem. Give me that spreadsheet, I can edit it, whatever, versus, oh, I have to train you on using Excel, which they probably won't, right? They'll probably send you to some class like here for you to get that training. And if you already have that training and somebody else don't, you're going to get the job.
No, yeah. And then, yeah, it's definitely,
The only things that are ever required are when you get way out there, like you need a professional engineering license in order to sign off blueprints or something like that, where it's this public safety issue. Then there's like certain hard requirements. But generally speaking, people are interviewing candidates just to see what skills they have. And how do you,
yeah.
because anybody can say, I know how to write, but if you say, well, I took an actual class or two on how to write for business, that's more positive proof.
No, yeah, for sure. Because you don't learn this in English for sure.
Yeah, as we mentioned on the first week, it's like this is taught through a business division, not the language library arts division. And bless their hearts, they train you to write book reports, novels, poetry. That's all great, but we're training you to write business stuff, and there's a huge gap there. That's why we have these classes.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they're like, I don't get it. I'm supposed to write verbosely, right? I'm supposed to, no. I know that's what you've been trained to do all this time until now, but no, not what we do.
It reminds me because my sister, she's in real estate, and I always noticed how when she writes stuff, I don't know if they taught her this and like the program she went had to go through to get the license, but I noticed her um anytime she shares something, it's really professional. So I kind of just like think of it like that. Like there's a certain way to do things, and then people or employers or people you're doing business with, they can kind of see that like watermark, like, oh, this person is formal. Or
Absolutely. We covered this more in 156, but especially now because we have so much texting going on and informal emails, people are sort of training themselves to write in a way which does not exhibit the qualities you just mentioned.
yeah,
So we have to sort of undo that here in this class. Right. And people in a business context, people have expectations. Like I was talking about, the business letter is almost like this Japanese tea ceremony where it's this formal thing. That's the expectation. Someone gets a letter, if it's in some crazy font and doesn't have margins or whatever, they're going to go, who wrote this? This company's no good. I'm not doing this with them.
yeah.
Okay, so we're back. Where are we? Okay, now we're in goodwill messages. So this is the assignment for writing a goodwill message. Very similar to the last one. We're going to do it in Word. However, here we have an example letter. This is actually a real one. This is a letter that Microsoft used to, maybe they still do, they send out to an employee when they've had a baby. But it's a little bit lacking, to be honest. So your job is to take a look at this email. Let me move this thing off. There we go. You're going to download this Microsoft Word file, open it in Word, same drill. You're going to save as, tack your name on the end. And then what you're going to do is just going to improve it. Using all the things that we mentioned here about what should be in a goodwill message, you're going to apply all those things and improve the message, just right there in that document, just edit that thing. And then drag it and drop it onto the rocket ship or click the choose file and pick that thing. Okay, I'll leave you guys to do that. All right, so now we're into the grammar part. Oh, I know it's your favorite. I try to make it interesting as much as I can. So last week we talked about nouns and pronouns. We mentioned pronouns a little bit last week. We actually have a whole module that dives deeper into pronouns because there's a lot there. In fact, you may be wondering why we're talking about all nouns have number and gender. Why do we care about all this stuff? It's because we have, as mentioned, you have to pick a pronoun which matches all those things of that noun. And in that module where we talk about pronouns, and if you had 156, you went through this already, how to select the right pronoun that matches all those attributes of the antecedent noun that you're replacing. So we kind of covered these. We're going to cover this more, but now we're talking about verbs. And again, English is a subject, verb, object language, and the verb will always be in the predicate part of the sentence or clause. So you'll have your subject noun at the beginning, and then the rest of it, there's going to be a verb in there. So what is a verb? When I ask people what does verb, the answer we always get back is it's an action word. That's not wrong. It is an action word, but it's more than that. It can express action, being, or a state of being. You're like, what the heck does that mean? We'll explain. So let's take an example here. Leo traveled to Europe. Traveled is the action verb. Clearly, Leo's doing something. But there are a lot of actions that only really take place in our own minds and feelings. They're not external. Verbs that describe mental or internal actions, they're still action verbs, but it's not always so obvious to see that. So those include what we call process verbs, which describe actions of transitions. So some examples are consider, guess, change, grow, live, endure, succeed, fail. Those are all verbs. And they're still action verbs, but they're acting on a process or something more internal. Let's take a look at this example. Maura is an accountant. Is the verb here. I'm like, what? How is that an action thing? It's not an action verb. It's a being verb. Or sometimes we call them linking verbs because they link the subject noun to the rest of the sentence. So some examples of being verbs are am, is, are, was, there, be, being, and been. Being verbs can also express an existence, a state, or condition, not a physical action, right? The action ones, sure, we understand those fine, but they can also be more subtle than that. So we call those state of being verbs. They can describe a subject's state or feeling, including things they like and don't like. So if I say, I like something, like is the verb. So examples are want, need, prefer, love, hate, like, dislike, seem, understand, know, believe, involve, realize. Those are all verbs. You may not think of them as verbs because they're not action words, but they're state of being words. So yeah, we also mentioned we call them linking verbs because they can be used to sort of link the subject noun or adjective that renames or describes the subject. So he is happy. It links he to happy. They were doctors, links they to doctors. The cake smells delicious. So you might not think smells a verb, but it is because it's describing an internal process. And it linked, in this case, it's linking cake to delicious. Okay, so let's talk about infinitives and gerunds. We mentioned gerunds before last week, right? A little bit. We'll talk about it some more. So do you like to swim? Do you enjoy learning? So right there, the first one was infinitive, second one was a gerund. So we use these if we want to use a verb as a noun. What does that mean? Well, if I say, do you like to swim? Is swim a verb here? Is anybody actually swimming?
No.
No. Like is the verb. We just talked about how like can be a verb. So we're using swim here, not as a verb, but as a noun for the action of swimming. And so we can use the infinitive. The infinitive form is the to go, to swim, has to in front of it. I mentioned it right here, in front of the verb's root form. And then for the gerund, do you enjoy learning? They'll have the ing on the end. So is anyone learning here in the sentence? No, we're just talking about asking you if you enjoy the process of learning. So we're using learning as a noun here. So yeah, the infinitive adds to in front of the verb's root form. You can turn the verb into a gerund by adding ing. A lot of times it's difficult to tell if a word's being used as a verb or a gerund. So what you can do is check to see if the word is acting on a noun. That would be the verb case, or acting as a noun. That would be the gerund or infinitives. So for example, I like swimming and I like to swim. Use the verb like to act on the gerund noun swimming or the infinitive to swim, right? However, I was swimming. Now, was anyone swimming here? Yeah, they were. So we're using the past continuous form of the verb, which we're going to talk about tenses in a second. So that's acting on the noun, right? Noun I. So here's a little trick you can use if you're like, I can't tell. Try to substitute the word it and see if it still makes sense. Then it's a gerund, right? So you can't really say I was it. That means something else, I guess.
Try it for which one?
For the gerund. If you're suspecting it's a gerund, you can put it in there and see if it makes sense. So if we say, where's the one? I like swimming. If you can say I like it, oh, hey, that makes sense, right? So it can replace the noun, and then you can tell for sure, yeah, that was a noun, all right, we're using it as a noun. And if it doesn't fit, I was it, it's like, that's not a noun, that must be a verb then. I know that's complicated and not very obvious. All right, so what about verbs? Verbs have tenses. Tense of a verb tells the time of the action or being. And there are 3 simple tenses: present, past, and future. You know your Christmas Carol? You know the ghosts of
Christmas past.
past, present, and future. So I don't think I need to explain this too much, right? Present tells about what's happening now. Conrad is busy right now. He studies hard right now. Past happened before. Conrad was sick.
Yesterday.
Conrad studied hard. Future tells what's going to happen. You usually add the auxiliary verbs will or shall. Conrad will take the test tomorrow. I shall keep my word. Okay. So those are the 3 simple tenses, but okay, it's got to get more complicated because this is English. So each tense has 4 aspects. Here are the aspects. So I have this chart here. Here are the 3 simple tenses, and then here are the aspects. We have simple, perfect, continuous, and perfect continuous. And here's examples. Simple tense. That's the one you probably use 90% of the time. Nothing fancy. It doesn't add any new information. It's just simple. It has the fewest rules. It indicates a single completed action. Something got done and it's done. Perfect tenses, both perfect and perfect continuous, are hard to explain. I have some timeline charts I think might help you below here. But what they need is a second point in time that they relate to. Let's look at these examples. So for the simple past, I helped my neighbor yesterday. We're just talking about one completed event in time. When we look at the perfect ones, I had helped my neighbor clean his attic before I fixed his car. 2 points in time. The before I fixed his car, and I helped him clean before that. So the perfect tenses will always be in relation to a second moment in time. If it doesn't have a second moment in time, it's not perfect aspect of the tense. Look at the other one. I have helped my neighbor too much this week. This week is a second point in time. I will have helped my neighbor 100 times by the end of the month, second point in time. So that's perfect tense. Continuous, this is the one that we often get confused with the gerunds because they're usually the INGs. And it's not a single point in time, it's over an interval of time. So it still could be in the past, the present, and the future, but we're talking about something that happened over an interval of time. I was helping my neighbor instead of I helped him. The first one, the simple one, I helped him, was one thing, it got done. Whereas I was helping means I helped him over some interval of time. Okay, and then putting the two together, continuous and perfect, same story. It's an interval, we're talking about interval of time in relation to another point in time.
Sorry, what's the had for? Can't you just do it with I've been helping my neighbor? I had. Why is the had?
So
Wouldn't that
this
be
had,
wordy? Had?
we have to have had in here to indicate that it's been in the past, right?
I've been. Oh, okay, I got you. My bad.
Okay, so here's some timelines that maybe will help you. So simple is simple. It's about one point in time in the past. The little green circle is my way of saying this is one point in time that we're talking about. Present, one point in time. Future, one point in time. Continuous. Oh, we're talking about a thing that happened in the past, but it wasn't just one single thing in the past. It stretched over an interval of time. So I have this green box here. It's like, well, it wasn't one single point. It kind of went over some interval of time. So these are all intervals. And then with the perfect, we're talking about, it can be either one, a single point in time in respect to some other point in time. So let me see, I think I had some examples here, right? I had run before I sprained my ankle. So we're talking about I had run before I sprained my ankle. The sprained my ankle was the other moment in time that we're in relation to.
It's a past.
This is all in the past.
Okay.
And in fact, in this particular case, it doesn't have to be like this always. It can be like this. But we're talking about something that's even more past than the other point in time we're referencing. I sprained my ankle. I had run before I sprained my ankle. So this is even older than this other point we're referencing. So it can also talk about an interval of time that we're referencing. I have run every day this week. So I'm talking about now, I have run every day this week, but it's in respect to another interval in time. I will have run after my ankle heals. So I will run, it's in the future, but it has to happen after my ankle heals. So the perfects always have to have some other point in time that they're referring to. Does that make any sense?
It's getting confusing. So is the past, is that for its own sentence, the present, or do they all go in the same sentence, past, present, and future? And then how would you word that?
I imagine that you could have these all in one sentence, but that would be a crazy long sentence. It'd probably be a bunch of independent clauses all joined together. So the normal case by far is just one combination of these things. So like pick a box in here. And that's your
Yeah.
sentence that just has one thing going on. Like I said,
Okay.
we could, join these together. I am helping my neighbor while he fixes up his house, and I will help my neighbor tomorrow. Those are two independent clauses joined by coordinating conjunction.
And I feel maybe this is like a dumb question on my part, but it's I helped, or would you be, you can't write it backwards like I will help my neighbor, or tomorrow I will help my neighbor, or
No, you can do that. That's fine. Yeah,
yeah. Okay.
maybe a little awkward, but okay. So we're talking about all this stuff about verbs, right? Why? Why are we going over all this stuff? I'm checking to see if I forgot to mention something here. I think we'll cover all this. This is why. Because for a sentence to be correct, it has to have subject-verb agreement. What does that mean? So we know what a subject is. We covered that last week. It's a noun, right? The subject noun. And then now we have a verb in the predicate part of the sentence. They have to agree. It's a grammatical rule that the verb or verbs in a sentence must match the number and sometimes the person of the subject. Remember person, first person, second person, third person? So always the number. So the plural or non-plural thing comes into play here. But also the person. First person, there's a lot of verbs which conjugate differently for first person than they do for second and third person. Speaking of conjugation, so yeah, this subject verb agreement is sort of a subset of general verb conjugation. But you know, in English, we don't really talk about verb conjugation that much. If you took a foreign language, like when I took Spanish, that's we spend most of our time conjugating verbs. One verb in Spanish can have up to like 40 different conjugations. Lucky for you in English, it's a lot simpler because we only have 12. 3 times 4, we have 12. Not 40. Okay. But unfortunately, it's still not simple. Simpler than, say, Romance languages, but still not simple. There's all kinds of irregular verbs that have weird conjugations. Here's a list. Right? Now, the reason that we don't really teach verb conjugation in English is because it's simple enough that by the time you're old enough to be sitting in a class, taking a class on English, you've already internalized all the conjugations for the most part. There are a few weird ones that you may not have heard or recognized or internalized. But for the most part, you've already internalized all these rules. So that's why we don't really teach conjugation for the most part. But the subject verb agreement thing comes up a lot as a problem. People don't match them, and that's just wrong. So we're going to talk about that. But yeah, if you want to take a look at all these crazy conjugations, but again, you probably know most of these already by this time in your life.
Is this in the last part of the modules, or it's just in the 2.2?
I put it in the reference section.
Okay, good, yes, that's what I meant, thank you.
Okay, so what are the rules, basic rules for getting your verb and subject to agree? Okay, so let's just talk about the being verbs for a second. Is, are, was, were. You just use the singular form for a singular subject and plural form for the plural subject. Pretty straightforward. I am, it is. They are, it was, they were. So we have the different forms of the verb for plural and singular. You just pick the one that matches the noun that you're talking about. So am is singular, I is singular. They is plural, are is plural. Were is the plural. So that one's pretty straightforward. Okay. If it's not a being verb, if it's a singular subject, you either add an S or an ES or an IES to the present tense verb. For example, she walks, he eats, the snake hisses. Remember I'll talk about that in a second. The bird flies. If it's a plural subject, you just use the base form of the verb. They walk, they eat, right? So here we have walks with S on it. Here we just have walk by itself. Here we have eats with S. Here just eat. So the way I remember this is that it's opposite day. It's the opposite of how we make noun plurals, but you just did, right? Like if you want to make a noun plural, you look at how the word ends, right? We have that chart, and you might add just S most of the time. You just put S on it. But depending on how it's ending with a Y, a consonant Y, whatever, you might have to make it ES or IES. This is the same exact thing for the verb, but in the opposite, right? Because singular, but we're adding an S. Plural, but we don't add the S. Okay? All right. Wouldn't be English if there weren't a bunch of weird, tricky exceptions. So here's some tricky situations. If there's intervening phrases, you just ignore the phrases between the subject and the verbs. Here's an example. The list of items is on the desk. Okay. Is it items plural that we're going to match the thing to? So would it be are on the desk? No, we ignore everything after the subject noun. The subject noun here is list. It's singular. So we use the singular, right? It's not the list of items are on the desk. It's the list of items is on the desk. And a trick you can do is just remove those extra phases for a moment to see if it works. If I said the list are on the desk, you're like, that's not right. Compound subjects. If you have a subject, noun, and another, remember we can have more than one. The dog and the cat. Well, that's plural. Right? We're two things. Even though each one's singular, there's two things. So we use the plural. We don't say the dog and the cat is friends. Compound subjects. Verb agrees with a subject closer to it. So here's an example. Neither the boys nor the girl. Okay, so we have plural boys and singular girl. So which one do we go with? The one, the verb agrees with a subject closer to it. So runs is the subject, closer to girl, which is singular, right? So remember it's opposite day. We turn runs into the S version. The girl runs. What about indefinite pronouns like each, everyone, somebody, nobody, either? These are the singular versions. This can be tricky to determine the difference between plural indefinites and singular indefinites. But the way I kind of think of it is, yeah, we're not talking about a specific thing. It's an indefinite pronoun, but we're sort of picking a single thing out of it. Each, everyone, that's a single thing, sort of like the collective noun. Somebody, we took a certain thing. Nobody, we took a certain thing out. Either, neither, they take singular verbs. Everyone is here, not everyone are here. Conversely, we have the plural indefinite pronouns. Several, few, both. Those are clearly a bunch of things, but they're plural. So they take the plural verb. Many are coming, not many is coming. What about the either or? All, some, most, none. They can be singular or plural, depending on how they're referencing the noun. Some of the pie is gone. Some of the cookies are gone. Right? Because this was plural, part of the some. Collective nouns are singular, right? So 99% of the time, you're going to use a singular verb. There's weird cases where, like here's our example, where, yeah, it was a collective noun, but we're talking about the verb acting as individual people in that collection. So the team plays well, but the team are arguing because they're like arguing amongst themselves inside the collection. You don't see this one very often.
The team is arguing?
So this is correct how it is. The team are arguing. It seems weird, doesn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. They are arguing amongst themselves. Maybe if I added that to the end, it makes it a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
Okay, there, the here. The verb agrees with the actual subject that follows. There are many people, not there is many people. So we're looking at the thing that follows, right? And then here's a tricky one. Units of measurement or time. It's singular when you're treated as a single amount. 3 miles is far. We don't say 3 miles are far. This is one that people get wrong all the time. Because we're treating the unit of measurement as a single thing. And then contractions. Doesn't, does not, for singular subject. He doesn't know. And don't, do not, for plural subject. They don't know. I don't know. Okay, so here's the assignment. We'll do this one in class. If you want to follow along right now, get in sync. Get ready to submit the thing. So the goal of this assignment is to match the verb to the subject. So you're going to copy and paste these sentences into the text box, and then you're going to identify the correct verb that matches the subject, just like in the example. You say the dog, is it bark or barks at night? Well, it's a single dog, right? So we have to pick a verb and its opposite day. So we do the noun plural treatment to it, even though it's singular. Barks. Everyone had or has his own bicycle. So if we look back up here, the everyone, singular. Everyone is here. She, is it like or likes to travel? She, singular, opposite day, we have the S, likes. They, plural, right? Like or likes. Opposite day, we use singular looking form before noun, like. Okay,
So just highlight them, that'll be okay.
yeah, you can just highlight the correct one if you like, or you can write it at the end, like I have an example, whatever. I can figure out what you're trying to say. All right, let's do it. What do we think for number one? The result is or are significant. What's the subject noun?
Are.
Subject noun
Oh.
is result. Is that plural or singular?
Singular.
So is it is or are? Singular or plural form of verb?
Is.
Is. Is correct. Number two, the results, this is the converse, the results is or are significant. Well, since we know that we picked is on this one because it was singular, here we have plural. What do we think?
Are.
Opposite day. It's
Opposite
would
day.
be does. Are, sorry.
Are, yes. The results are significant. All right, next one. The team. All right, this is tricky. The team. What kind of a noun is team?
Plural. No?
No.
Okay, I'm single.
One of those collective nouns, right? It's a container. If the noun is a singular noun, team, because it's one thing that contains team players. So if it's singular, opposite day, what do we
Does.
think? Does. The team does their best. Collective team is singular. The students do or does their best. Students.
Opposite. Do.
Yeah, so students is plural. So opposite day, we choose the do. The child. Plural or singular? Is child a singular or a plural?
Sounds like singular to me.
Child is singular.
Okay.
Children would be plural, right?
Uh-huh.
So opposite day
Become.
becomes.
Becomes.
Becomes. The child and the pet. Oh, this is one of these compound subjects, like the dog and the cat. So what do we do in those cases? We consider it a plural because it's two things, even though each one is singular. We're talking about this and that, so it's two things. So the child and the pet, actually plural.
Become.
Become.
No
Yes.
S.
No S. Child and the pet become happier. That tree cause or causes hay fever. Tree, singular or plural?
It's plural. One. No. No.
A tree,
It's singular.
singular.
Cause-
Today,
Causes.
In my mind, I'm thinking the wrong one.
causes. All right. Its companion. Those trees. Okay, Alicia. Singular or plural? Those trees.
Plural.
Plural. Opposite day. What do we do?
Causes. No? Cause.
Cause, right.
Cause.
Opposite day.
Answer too quick. Sorry.
All right, be careful with this one. 30 seconds. Is or are a long time to wait for a screen update. Remember, units of measurement or time are considered singular.
Is. Yes. No.
Is correct.
Mhm.
All right, the authors, so it's plural, right? Authors doesn't or don't know their readers. What's the rule?
Opposite. Don't.
For plural, we're plural, right? Authors. For plural,
doesn't know the reader.
don't,
Don't.
right?
Technically.
The authors don't know their readers. Doesn't sound right the other way. The authors doesn't know their readers.
Yeah.
Okay. Did everybody get that? Are you submitting it? Did you get your confetti?
Uh, we have to submit it through Canvas?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Oh,
Is it-
no, okay. So we're just doing whatever goes with the plural, the singular or the plural.
Yeah,
I mean,
although careful, there's all these tricky things, right? So you have to make sure it's not one of the tricky things like we just did about 30 seconds. You would think 30 seconds is plural, but units of measurement are considered singular when they're treated as a single amount. So I threw in some of those here to like show that you're not just cruising, that you know there's these exceptions. You gotta watch for them.
okay.
So don't worry, Carlos, the class is being recorded. The recording will be posted here in Canvas in the first part of the module by tonight. You can go back and review
Yeah.
what you did and go ahead and submit it then.
I was just having problems sharing both screens because you said something about syncing, but I just tried to open up Canvas in a different window and putting them side by side, but I didn't. I just I'll just do it later.
I hear if you got a small screen, it's like, I'm out of screen real estate. I can't see my Zoom. I can't see my, but
Yeah,
it's Zoom, you can put the Zoom behind. You don't really need the Zoom in your face, right? You don't need to look at my ugly mug. You know what
yeah.
Okay, is everybody okay with that? Or at least, okay, I'll give it a shot. I think I understand. Just remember the opposite day thing and these weird, tricky situations.
I just have to review it again.
Grammar. Over and over, writing is practice makes perfect. Yeah, we didn't do this in last semester. This verb subject agreement was not a thing we covered. So a lot of the other grammar things are like, oh yeah, okay, this is a review. I kind of understood last time. All right, this time I'm really gonna get it. This is the first time you've seen this one.
No, no. Then you throw it at us.
Okay, next one. We'll do this one in class 2. Okay, remember that we mentioned that English on Earth is a SVO language. It has to be in that order: subject, verb, and object if you have one. But Yoda on Tatooine, he's not on Earth. That's not an SVO ordered language. He does more of a verb, subject, object, or maybe an object, verb, subject. I can't really tell.
Yoda was in Tattoo.
Doesn't he live on Tatooine?
Maybe
The
he does.
jungle or the swamp planet? Yeah, that's what it is.
So does Boba Fett.
I'm not that much of a Star Wars geek. This is about as far as I can get Star Wars geekiness. All right, so our job is to translate from Yoda speak to Earth English, and also from Earth English to Yoda speak. And the whole point of this exercise is for you to kind of recognize the SVO ordering. Okay, so just have fun. All right, so same thing. We're gonna do this in class.
I'm just gonna tell my kid.
So we copy sentences below and then put the correct under each one.
Yeah, so I always give you an example here, so you can kind of just follow. So you'll copy and paste the sentences into the text box that you're going to submit.
Okay.
And then, the first 5 are from Yoda speak, and the second 5 are to Yoda speak. So the example I give here, the droids you are looking for, these are not. Oh, I didn't use my Yoda voice. Let me try that again in Yoda voice. How does Yoda sound? I forgot. The droids we're looking for, these are not. Well, that sounds more like Dracula. I don't know. So you change that around into the correct SVO order. These are not the droids you're looking for. And to change something from Earth English to Yoda speak, so Earth English, the future is always in motion. Yoda speak would be always in motion is the future. All right, so let's do the first one. When gone am I, the last of the Jedi you will be. How would you change that in Earth ordered subject, verb, object?
When I am gone, you will be the last Jedi.
Yeah. That's one way of doing it. You could also say, you will be the last of the Jedi when I'm gone. But you get the idea, right? We have to put the subject first. And then the verb.
Subject.
All right. Anger, fear, aggression, the dark side they are, or they. How would you change that into English order?
They are the dark side, right? Anger, fear, aggression.
So what's the subject?
The dark side.
Yeah, so you have to start with the subject. So you have to start with the dark side.
The
So
dark
how would you
side.
finish it?
The
Guys don't
dark
speak
side
Yoda, huh?
would, we would have to change it to is. The dark side is. Or no?
Oh, you can leave it R, right? The dark side are anger,
Are,
fear, and
anger,
aggression.
fear.
Right?
Okay. So I don't have to use they.
I don't think so. There's multiple ways of doing these, right? I just want you to get the order swapped around. The greatest teacher failure is. So what's the subject?
Teacher.
Is it? I think it's more failure, right? The greatest teacher failure is. So you probably start off with failure. So how would you finish?
Failure is the greatest teacher.
Yeah. Powerful you have become. The dark side I sense in you.
2 sentences.
It is 2 sentences. So you have to do them each one. You flip them around.
It would be you become powerful.
You can do this a number of ways. The way I did it was I flipped the whole thing around. The dark side I sense in you, you have become powerful. Oh no, sorry. You have become powerful. I sense the dark side in you.
Are we fixing this? Because I didn't.
All right, the next one. Truly wonderful the mind of a child is. So what's the subject here? The mind of a child. So start off with that and then finish it. The mind of a child is truly wonderful. So yeah, you're finding in Yoda speak, the subject's over near the end. You have to take the end part, flip it around to be at the beginning, and then take the predicate, which Yoda starts out with, and make it work. All right, so now these, we're talking to Yoda, so we have to translate it into Yoda. Truth is a delicate flower. So what would you do? What's the subject here? Truth, right? So that has to be now kind of more towards the end. So you kind of start with the predicate and then put the subject at the end. So you would say,
Opposite.
a delicate flower, truth is. Make sense? The dark side is hard to see. So again, the dark side is the subject, right? We need to pop that at the end. Hard to see the dark side is.
So it's hard to see the dark side.
Hard to see the dark side is. Now, whether Yoda uses commas to join his sentences, I'm not sure. I don't know Yoda grammar. Your fear must be named before you can banish it. So what's the subject? Your fear, right? So that has to be put towards the end. So what would you say?
To banish the fear. No.
Well, there's probably different ways you can do it. What I did is named your fear must be before banish it you can. Again, just have fun with this part. You cannot remake a past decision. So here, again, there's probably many ways you can do it. What I said was remake a past decision you cannot. There's you, right? Subject, so I have to put that at the end and yours speak. Your mind must be clear if you are to discover the real villains behind this plot. Okay. What do we do for that? What's the subject? Your mind. So we're gonna have to put that at the end for Yoda speak. So again, a couple different ways you could do this. You could just say,
Discover the real villains.
you could start with that, yeah. To discover the real villains behind this plot, your mind, it must be clear. Clear your mind must be. Anything like that. Or you could just leave this at the end too. You can just say, must be clear your mind if you are discovering, whatever. Just my point is that you have to undo English order to make it Yoda. So you have to put the subject at the end. All right, did everybody get that? And did they submit it? And get your confettis. Okay, we're almost done. I'm gonna have to finish before Karina falls asleep here. Oh, she's awake. She's awake. She's awake. Okay. All right, so our discussion for this week. I'm going to ask you to give replies to these 3 questions. Give an example from your daily work life where you could utilize any of these, not all of them, just a claim, complaint, goodwill, or instructional message. Just pick one. Say, hey, yeah, last week I had to send an email with a list of instructions, or I had to make, sent a goodwill message, whatever, right? Just an example out of your own life. And then I usually ask these 2, which part of this module do you think will benefit your writing skills? And which, if any, has been unclear? Okay. And then there's a little short review quiz. So yeah, by the way, someone was asking me about this. I made that distinction between our simple little module quizzes versus the CABT quizzes. There's 3 of those in the entire class that correspond with the 3 exams. So the CABT quizzes are worth a lot of points, and they're essentially your study guide for the exams that they go with. There's 3 of them. Module quizzes aren't worth that many points. They're only 4 or 5 questions, and these are just for you to make sure you got everything out of the module. The CABT quizzes are timed, and you only get 1 chance to take them. They're timed, but they're 15 minutes long. I've been looking at the stats. People are doing these in like 4 minutes. You should have plenty of time, and you can take them up to 3 times. So you take it 1 time. If you want to, it shows you the correct answers after you take it at once. You can go, well, I'll take it again. That way I can get 100%. Your highest score is the one that goes in the grade book. Okay, and that is it for week 2. So just the takeaways to reiterate. We went over the structure of a claim and complaint letter. We went over the structure of an adjustment letter. And we went over the structure of a goodwill message. And we went over the use of verbs, specifically the subject-verb agreement. Any questions on any of that stuff? I only hear crickets, so I'll head over to the Aptos computer lab. If anybody wants to go over there and do their homework or whatever, I will be there. And if anybody else has any questions about anything specifically either this week or last week that I'm going to talk about now, you can hang out and we can go over it. Otherwise, I'll either see you on Zoom or see you next week.
Thank you.
Bye.